Well, I was a teenager fresh out of high school when I first met Skip. My dad had built a multi-car garage, freestanding garage out on the farm, and one end of it we converted and made a recording studio. And I had partnered with Steve Fowler, who was the chorus director at Fayette County High School, and to furnish equipment for the studio. And so we went into business together. One of the first people that ever came to do business with us was Skip. And 32 years ago, roughly, I met Skip right here in this little studio that I'm sitting in today. And Skip said that he'd been working with some bands and some artists, and was looking for a place local that he could record demos and possibly have songwriting sessions. And so it all started right here in this room. Skip came to me and with an idea one day and said that he wanted to create a record label. And we were sitting here in this control room, and I remember him pulling out a sheet of paper out of his briefcase where he had been scribbling and drawing a logo that he wanted to use for that label. And that logo was a little raccoon, and the raccoon was holding 2 vinyl records, and it had something dripping off the records. Of course, there was no CDs back then, and all records were vinyl, and the stuff. I asked Skip, I said, Skip, what is this dripping off the record? And he said, that's Golden Eagle table syrup. And he said, it's manufactured right here in Fayette, Alabama. It's the best syrup in the world, and my coon, he loves that syrup. And so my record label, I thought I'd just have him in the syrup jar, and he's got it all over his records, and I'm going to call it Sticky City Records. And that's how Skip came up with his name, Sticky City Skip. Well, in the early years, Skip and I worked on a lot of material together, but the one song that really catapulted us out of the gate and put Sticky City Records on the map was a song called The Game of Life. See, Skip's father had passed away, and he was penning a tribute to him, and brought the lyrics here to the studio one day, and I began to read them. And it was a song about how his father had taught him lessons in life, using the game of baseball as his illustration. And as I read the lyrics, I could just see Skip hitting that ball and running those bases. And I got down to the chorus, and I read where his dad was telling him to watch out for the curves and work hard in the field and swing even when you're in doubt. Remember, thou shalt not steal. It feels good when you get a hit, but it feels better when you sacrifice to help someone else make it home in this game of life. At that point, I was the baseball player, and my dad was teaching me, and I remembered all of those moments. The song put me back as a child. I got down to the bridge of the song. That's when I began to cry, because the little boy Skip was no longer the runner. It was his dad. And the line that really pricked my heart that day was, last I heard, he was rounding third, and on his way home, Skip could hear him say, watch out for the curves. Work hard in that field. Swing when you're in doubt. Remember, thou shalt not steal. I had to cut the song for myself, and we released it, and Eloise and Wayne Tomley on WLDX radio at that time, and gave us a wonderful opportunity to air that song. And from that radio station, it went to other radio stations. From those radio stations, it led us to television. We were very fortunate to do 2 years together on the Country Boy Eddie show in Birmingham, Alabama. That was on Channel 6 on the ABC network at that time. And we also did the Buddy and Kay show in Tupelo, Mississippi. All we did were songs that Skip and I had written on those broadcasts, and I'm so thankful today that we took the time and followed the dreams and worked together and paired up as a team Things wouldn't be like they are today had it not been for the game of life. Well, we had spent so much time together in recording studios and writing songs here in this studio, and Skip and I had just become the best friends. We broke bread together. We stayed in one another's homes. We traveled together. There was virtually nothing musically that I was involved in that Skip wasn't also involved in too. You know, we had a strong friendship. We had a strong relationship, even in a time where, you know, segregation was still had its ugly fingers wrapped around our society. And but Skip and I, we didn't pay racial bigotry and those things any mind. They had no place in our life, and we treated it as though it didn't exist. Skip and I were brothers. We were friends. There wasn't anything that we wouldn't do for one another. And 32 years or so later, he turned out to be the best friend that I've ever had. Yeah, Skip was always a career-driven type individual, making appointments with executives around the country and traveling, and so he really didn't have time to date. He never did really date much in our existence anyway. And but I noticed that he kept lining up some trips to New York. So one day when he got home, I asked him, "You must be having pretty good luck in New York." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I went up to New York to get me a bite of that Big Apple." He said, "And I fooled around and got bit." And I said, "Dude, tell." I knew this was pretty serious for Skip. And he said, "Yeah, her name is Linda. She's beautiful. She's got her own business. She's an entrepreneur. She's got a nice car, low mileage." When he said that, I said, "Well, I didn't know if he was talking about the car or talking about Linda." So I said, "It's a good thing because you've been wearing your car out going to New York and back." Well, time tarried on, and they married, and I had the honor of singing at the wedding, and it opened a new chapter in Skip's life. He became more entrepreneur-minded himself. He took the records out of that raccoon's hands, and he put paintbrushes in those hands with paint dripping off, and stuck that logo on the side of a van and called it Sticky City Painting Services. And I would often help Skip paint during my off time. And he'd always talk about Linda and how he loved her. And one thing that stood out in my mind, he said, "I'll stay with this girl until the day I die." And you know, on Friday, July the 7th, with Linda by his side, he made good on that promise. Well, the last big recording session that we did together, we did in Nashville, and we recorded 3 tunes. And those 3 tunes was "I'm Ready for Love," "Step to Me," and "Mama's Front Porch Swing." That year, his mother was turning 100 years old, and "Mama's Front Porch Swing" was a tribute to his mother, and turned out just to be a beautiful song. I'm so honored that I got to play the keyboard and the Hammond organ on those tracks. And you can watch it. It's on video on YouTube. "Mama's Front Porch Swing." I went back and listened to that song once I found out about his passing, and some of the kids had posted it on their Facebook pages as well. It's just a beautiful song, and I just can picture Skip now in glory. And when I get there, I'm going to sit down with him in that front porch swing. We're going to talk about the game of life and our future together through eternity. just a little boy, Daddy bought me a ball and bat. Soon I'd have a favorite team, a hero to look at. Every man I must learn to play, so keep a goal in sight. The one you choose may pay your dues in the game of life. It depends on where you are, maybe called by another name. No matter where you go, the rules will be the same. They're found in the good book to teach you right from wrong. And there you'll find between the lines a path that leads to home. So watch out for the curves, work hard in the field, swing when you're in doubt, and remember thou shalt not steal. Oh, it feels good when you get a hit, it feels better when you sacrifice to help someone else make it home in the game